This one's coming for you. I'm an Indian woman who gained infamy as the.
Indrani Mukherjee.
What? I didn't even tell you what
Is
she
it- is
did.
it?
No, it's wrong.
Jolly Joseph.
Yes. Yes.
You are entering the Overthink tank.
Today, I'm talking to the host of the popular podcast, Desi Crime. These guys have been topping charts, breaking all download records across the nation, just because you guys are so thirsty for all the bloody, gory details. Please welcome Aishwarya and Aryaan from Desi Crime.
Hey, Surbhi, nice to have us.
Yes,
nice
thank
to be
you.
here.
Yes.
Are you guys nervous that you're in Ghaziabad for the first time? And you
A
can't...
little bit, but not really. Like I said, I'm from Greater Noida, not from, but been living there for the last many years. That's kind of as wild as it gets. So, but this is a scary place to be for sure.
If you don't know, the Overthink Tank is a podcast where we overthink our listeners' problems so they don't have to.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Love that.
I want that.
Yeah, I want that
I'm gonna
too.
outsource.
We needed you.
It's so good.
It is a social service.
Yeah.
Would you guys like to hear the question we have?
Let's go.
Yes.
Okay. Dear Overthink Tank, I'm really into true crime and love the thrill it gives me. But lately, I've been getting super paranoid when I'm walking alone at night. I can't help but constantly glance behind me to make sure no one's following me. Do you think all the true crime I consume is making me extra anxious, or am I just overthinking it?
Probably it is making you extra anxious for sure. A little bit of the aim of true crime is to do that, is to make you a little anxious, firstly, for your own safety. So you know that these are the crimes around you. This is how easy it is to be caught up in a crime like this or be a victim. And so part of it is to make you be more aware of your surroundings and become a little safer. So that will make you anxious. The other part is to make you anxious for the thrill of it. So part of listening to a true crime podcast and the experience is to be a little anxious for the adrenaline rush. So it's for sure probably doing it. I don't know what's the solution
Yeah, no,
to that.
I think anxiety is anxiety based on how you define it. I think
Yeah.
excitement and anxiety are the same biologically the same in your body, and the context you set the anxiety in dictates your response to it. So, of course, horror movies and thriller movies and war movies create anxiety, but it's that anxiety that you don't think of as negative because you know at the end of the day you're going to be safe. I'm a big war movie
Yeah.
fanatic. When I'm watching Saving Private Ryan, I know I'm in my house with, a pizza in front of me and a bottle of water, but I don't know, I'm anxious for them. It's a
Correct.
vicarious anxiety that you experience, and all of a sudden, it all ends. And you're still alive at your house and you're good to go. So, I think that's why people listen to true crime a lot. But it definitely makes you more anxious, just like any source of entertainment in the
Yeah.
thriller genre does.
But as someone who takes medication for anxiety, I have noticed something where sometimes there are days, when like I'm so gloomy and it's a combination of winter and the just bad news after bad news. And I've noticed that even though I'm so anxious, I can easily sit down and binge watch like a crime thriller.
sure.
And
Interesting.
it's sort of an escapism sort of a thing where I'm like, I don't want to know what's happening in my head, but I do want to know all the murders that are happening
Yeah.
in my neighborhood.
That's really interesting. Nice.
Doesn't it? But I think I do think that some people, it's like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Now, how does that work to solve trauma or psychological issues? The whole point is to expose you to the item of your anxiety without actually leading to the end result you fear, that you catastrophize about sometimes. And I think that's what a crime podcast does for you, right? Which is it exposes you to a criminal, an evil person, but that leads to nothing bad for you. And so there is
Yeah.
that sort of, that's why I think sometimes it can pair together with you feeling anxious, but the true crime not actually exacerbating your anxiety.
I just feel, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a horror movies. If they tell you that, okay, this is based on real life stories,
Yeah.
I am done for.
Yeah.
I'm switching off this.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm
for
very
sure.
scared. Yeah.
But with
Yeah.
true crime, it's almost like I'm desensitized to all this crime, even though I know these are real people, with real families and some horrific things have happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels bad that I'm being productive by listening to their true crime stories. Like I've done
Yeah.
a whole load of laundry, but I'm listening to somebody's murder.
Yeah.
So how do you grapple with this, right? Like your audience is here to listen to other people's true crime stories.
Yeah.
But mostly they're just getting the shit that they haven't done in a while. They're just getting through like their basic chores. Maybe somebody's washing their dishes while listening to
Sleeping to the
which is big.
podcast. Yeah.
It feels kind of sad.
Yeah. Sad, and there is certainly guilt on our part sometimes, and not anymore, at least initially when we began producing the podcast, that we're putting out these really, really raw tales that are so personal to someone's life. And essentially, the world's listening to them for entertainment's sake. But we've slowly come to the realization that firstly, it matters why we're telling these stories. We're telling unknown cases from around the country that we believe deserve the light of day, where we want to continue to remember the victims, we want to continue to remember why the perpetrators did what they did, so we can create a better society, XYZ. But we also believe, and this is something Aryaan says a lot, is that there is no story that doesn't deserve to be told.
It's how it's told.
It's how it's told, yeah.
It's how you package anything. I don't think as artists, it's our responsibility. As writers, it's our responsibility to push the envelope. And I think going back to what Aishwarya said, we initially dealt with the ethical dilemma. And true crime ethics are a subject of discussion. But from a creative standpoint, I remember, I think it was our 4th episode covering the murder of Yvonne Johnson in Sri Lanka, a case that captured that nation that really wasn't known of globally, obviously, in India. It wasn't even in Sri Lanka. It was kind of dying off. It didn't get the media limelight it deserved. And our prerogative is to look for stories that on which a movie hasn't been made, right? That's why I love producing this show, is unearthing and researching and writing. And so we made this case about Yvonne Johnson, and we were young and we had just started. And Yvonne Johnson's mother, the mother of the victim, reposted that on her Facebook and reached out to us to say thank you. Wow. And that day we realized, okay, that's what we're going to tell. We're going to mainstream the victim's narrative, and we're going to do justice to the stories we find, because it does have a material impact and can actually benefit the families of the victims.
So in the last few cases that you guys have covered, is there something that you have learned about criminals that you'd never knew before, and something that your show helped debunk?
That's a woozy. You got to think about that. I think after covering, we have 110 episodes now, it becomes repetitive at a point where there are telltale signs of how a criminal came to be, usually to do with childhood trauma. So that's a pattern that's glaring. Horrible childhoods. Almost always they've had horrible childhoods. So that's a telltale sign. I think, we shot for a episode on Sweet Bobby. It's based out of UK. And not to break it for anybody, you should go check out the Sweet Bobby podcast. They're doing really well in the UK. And this was gaslighting to a level of the victim that I cannot conceive, because the person who was gaslighting for 10 years had a really lovely childhood and a really good relationship with the victim.
Wow.
Cousin of the victim. They were really close to each other. So, that's a recent episode that's kind of blown me away. But
Usually the criminals are they're usually someone you know. So does that always add up? I know it's a saying that, okay, if you get murdered, it's usually someone you know. Has this been true in all the cases you've covered, or sometimes just a stranger out of the blue comes and stabs you?
There have been those cases, but very few and far in between. There's a case out of Australia that Aryaan covered, which was just a random having stumbled upon an opportunity kind of killing. Or like the Nirbhaya case, for example, the criminal saw an opportunity and committed the crime. But I think most cases are of known members. These are crimes of passion. These are crimes for which the emotions have built up over many years. These are, like we said, there are societal reasons to these crimes, and those usually come out against the people that you end up knowing throughout your life.
It's really fascinating to understand how a murderer's brain works, right? But also, I have never felt like I could. I just feel like when I'm listening to a true crime
I
podcast,
thought she was about to say, I think I've never felt like I could commit a murder.
I feel like I can commit a murder, but only if I am held at gunpoint. So really
fair
desperate
enough,
situation for me to like take somebody else's life. Which is why when I listen to like people who were one day like a straight individual and the next day they stab their whole family or something dramatic or horrific happened, I'm just shook by how another human being who looks so normal, so regular, has a backpack, goes to work.
Yeah.
Like people with a backpack, I just feel like how
People who
dare
drive a scooty and have a backpack. Yeah.
Can be murderers.
No.
Oh, which is why I'm asking you this question because I don't think I relate with the murderer as much as I relate with the victim.
Yeah.
Firstly,
Of
that's
course.
good to know being in a set in Ghaziabad.
I do not want to murder you. But I want to ask you guys about the victim, especially most of the cases that we read about where the victim is mostly women because women are soft targets and then there's children and elderly people. But Aishwarya, you cover so many of these true crime stories, but how do you balance your, the adrenaline rush you get from this, but also knowing that the world isn't a safe space for us? Everywhere you go, there's some sketchy situations that you can end up in as a woman.
I think part and parcel of being a woman is knowing that this is our experience. Knowing that you could be in a salon and the person there trying to cut your hair could be the one inappropriately touching you. You could be at some of the fanciest clubs in the country on a New Year's Eve party and there somebody could inappropriately touch you. So I think at least having grown up as women with the realization that true crime is not the first thing to tell us that we're unsafe.
Correct.
We've already known
It's
that.
our mums.
Right, it's our mums, it's our dads. Our dads have always said, we know how other men are. When our dads say don't wear skirts, it's not because they're patriarchal. They're saying we know what the world is like out there. So we've gotten that message throughout our lives. We're not getting it for the first time from true crime. But I think it just helps that I'm just inherently a naive optimist. And so I genuinely I love people. I think men are incredible. I think women are incredible. Women are beautiful. More power to everyone. I love everyone and I love human interaction. So
Oh
it's
my
really
God.
hard for me to really be down in the dumps about all
I
of
really
this.
hope they don't play this when you get murdered.
That's true. If I do get
And if a
murdered,
woman murders you, bro,
That's
you're right.
really sad.
The
Oh.
men's rights people are going to play this again and again and
I
again.
really do. I mean,
But isn't that also I just feel like I've been told my entire childhood that, when you're walking on a street, just don't attract any attention towards
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Be as plain as possible.
Right.
Right? Don't even let them know that you're a woman.
Yeah.
Just disfigure yourself in a way,
Yeah.
wear a bunch of layers.
Yeah, the tape all the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
And walk confidently. Don't look confused.
Yeah.
You have to really know where you're
Assert
going.
yourself.
Just
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
with
yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Then when you're coming in an Uber, you cannot take a nap.
Right,
It's out
yeah.
of the question. Sorry, you have to be alert the whole way out.
Absolutely.
So I'm just thinking, since we already take care of all of these things, are we more likely to get murdered or are we less likely to get murdered? Because I feel like murder is still happening.
Murder is still happening. It's still mostly women.
Yeah.
So clearly, we can take all the precautions we want, but the simple fact that physically we're just easy to dominate makes us easy target. Not that easy. I have a mic to swing on your face. But I think so. Yeah, no, it's so unfortunate. There's so little to say
Have I
about
killed
these
the naive
things.
optimist in you?
Yes, a little bit. It's dying slowly, being in Ghaziabad and then this
No,
conversation.
it's real. I don't know, but every woman I know can be
Yeah.
hired by the CBI because these guys are so vigilant,
Right.
right? We
Yeah.
make sure our phones are charged.
Absolutely.
a power bank just in case our location is shared with.
We're great stalkers. The world likes to make fun of us because we're great stalkers. We do it for our own safety. Like half of the times, if we meet someone online, we're like stalking to make sure we're not going to die at the end of the
You
date.
do employ those skills for nefarious
Yes,
purposes.
yes,
though.
of
Like,
Mostly
don't-
for us,
yeah,
of
yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, but it begins because like we know
Yeah,
these
I know,
skills.
100%.
But
Yeah.
another question that I have for you guys is that why do you think true crime has become all the rage now? Right? Like crime has been happening for all these years. Why now?
I don't think it's become the rage.
Yeah, I
now.
don't-
I
I-
think it's just adapted different mediums as the different media have come along. But
Crime Patrol.
Crime Patrol, Savdhan India, some of the biggest show, Agatha Christie and John Grisham in the
India's
90s and
Most
80s.
Wanted. We just covered a case on India's Most
Sohaib
Wanted.
Ilyasi. I
Sohaib
mean, these
Ilyasi.
shows have been capturing our national attention since forever. So I think there is something inherent about the genre that attracts people.
Yeah.
Of course, it's one of those that inevitably leads to adrenaline. So yeah, I
It's
don't
kind of
think
like
it's
a roller coaster, yeah.
What if crime has increased over the last couple of years and that's why so many true crime podcasts exist now? Because we're like, oh, well, there's so much to cover, right? We're like,
I think it's reported more now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I think more true crime podcasts have exposed you to more crimes that have happened because
Yeah.
funnily enough the crimes we cover are usually predating 2010. So
And
that
it
is
feels
recent.
like there is so much crime because of the way news works now. The fact that news is as fast as it is, and the fact that like let's say 30 40 years ago you'd had to wait like a whole 24 hours to get the news cycle, but now it's right there. Like
Yeah.
the second you have an earthquake, it's right there on your phone.
Right.
And the fact that the news cycle is as fast as it is, and we have like 5-minute news and 10-minute news, makes us feel as though all of this is more prevalent
yeah,
than it
like
actually is.
earthquake in Kyoto in Japan, my mom would be telling me, and I'm like, you don't know Kyoto,
Yeah.
you don't know magnitude, you
Never
don't know
gonna be in
anything, but
Kyoto,
now you know
like-
there was an earthquake there, and
Yeah.
so we are constantly exposed to these sources of anxiety because that's what the news makes money out of, right? And
Yeah.
so I really don't think crime is decreasing according to all statistics.
You think crime is decreasing?
Statistically, crime is decreasing.
I mean, could be true. I never leave my house, so I wouldn't know. I never leave my house, and I have to get back home before sunset.
Yeah.
That's what I do to make
Yeah.
sure.
It's not less objectively, but it's decreasing historically.
But here's my thought, because I feel like for the last 10 years, dating apps have come into the picture, right?
Yeah.
Kind
We
of
didn't.
crime. Yeah.
We didn't understand
Yeah.
what dating apps were like. Women were not going out to meet strange men and go out for dinners with them.
Yeah.
And I think could this be the reason why crime is so prevalent now? Because now women are objectively making choices like going out on dates with men who could clearly murder you and putting themselves in situations that are unsafe.
I think I'm sure and 100% sure that a new kind of crime is more prevalent because women do this. So a Tinder swindler is more likely to exist, and this sort of financial scam making you fall in love from across like
Unrequited
continents.
love and romance crime is
Yeah, it's
I love
wild.
listening to it, but I'm like, I hope why it doesn't happen to me.
Yeah, no, so for sure, 100% more common because of the way technology's changed. But while that technology has changed, so has the fact that there are security cameras now everywhere, on every street, outside every home, and every restaurant. Everyone has a Ring camera now which records what's happening on their front door. Everyone's phone has a location that's being shared with 4 other people at any given point in time. You know, your social media can share your location to anyone at any given point in time. It's really, really hard also to commit a crime now than it ever has been before.
Yeah, I think the CCTV camera really put a big dent
Damn.
in the ability to cover
yeah, in the
crime.
whole crime business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just not even doing something suspicious, right? I'm just walking a certain block and I'm like, if I walk this like slowly or weirdly, what if somebody looks at this footage and they're like, clearly a criminal, only a criminal can walk like this.
Oh my God. In the US, there are these neighborhoods which have signs outside them which says neighborhood watch area. So there are people in those houses who've been designated to make sure nobody's behaving suspicious out in the neighborhood. Every time I walk past those boards, I'm like, okay, be normal, be normal, be normal. Walk
Which
straight, walk
invariably
straight.
leads to you not being
not
normal,
really weird,
catatonic
yeah.
and- yeah.
like, is this how
weird.
people walk?
Exactly.
But that's kind of good, I guess. Nice. Thank you for all the CCTV cameras around.
Yeah. Damn.
Hitachi.
Keep smiling. You're on camera. But you personally just said that crime is lowered, according to you.
Historically, yes.
Historically. But okay, I want to ask you, why did you choose South Asian crime stories? I know one reason is that they're not being covered very much. But
Yeah.
another reason, is there another bigger reason why you were so attracted to South Asian crimes? Do you believe that Americans can never replicate Burari? You're just like, no, we are on another level.
Yeah, I genuinely believe there is like a qualitative difference between crimes in the West and crimes in India. And that doesn't make any one more interesting than the other. But there's just so much social and cultural context to our crimes that explain our society. Honor killings, for example, really hard to imagine in a Western sort of setting. Honor killings in India tell an overarching story of our society and the way we think and the way we view love and relationships. And the same is true for police brutality in India. It exists just as it does in the West, but it's qualitatively so different and its reasons are so different than they are in the West. So telling these stories is not just about the crime itself, but about who we are as a people, what our culture says. So
Yeah, to us, of course, it's the fact that these stories haven't been told, but it's also the fact that we are Desi, right? And that was a big part of the brand we have is creating content that I think represents Desi people in the best way. So you said, can an American create a Burari? I don't think they can. But what you can learn from how America makes stuff, how the quality they bring, that's something you can learn. And I think that's partly why we've been so successful in a certain audience, like a niche audience, is one that is not willing to watch a crime covered with the satark rahiye, yeah. That style does not fly by people who
Anymore.
value quality and who value, did you get the statistic right? How many times if we mispronounce or we get a date wrong, we make a correction because it's really important to us to hold those standards that we realized when we've lived in US for a while and we saw the standards they have for journalism there. And we're like, all right, we can replicate that for Indian crime. And it's something we realized when we started researching Indian crime stories. Each media outlet reports a different name, a different date for the same murder because the standards aren't as high and people get by with misreporting stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons, other reasons why we thought covering South Asian crime could work for us.
How do you make sure that you're covering the cases with as much sensitivity, but also keeping it as raw as it is? Because that's what people are attracted to, right? I want the gory details.
Yeah.
Tell me how many times was this person stabbed.
Yeah.
But also be sensitive to the victim.
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you guys manage
Tough
all
line to
this?
balance.
Yeah, incredibly tough. There are some cases where we want to jar our public, and so we try not to mince words. Like when we covered the Nirbhaya case,
Yes.
at the beginning of the episode, I said, I don't usually give trigger warnings before an episode because it's a crime podcast. Like, if you're triggered, don't listen to it. But I will give one before this episode because I'm being extra graphic about the details. I don't want to mince words. There was one documentary made on this victim that never saw the light of day in India. Someone needs to tell you the facts. And so,
And it's the first time I heard it because she researched that episode.
Well, that's really brave of you.
yeah, that was a really hard episode to cover. And so many people chose to sit it out and not listen to it. But for the ones that wanted it, the information was there. So that was one we chose not to mince words with. But there are...
Also, it really isn't that brave of us at all. It's brave of the journalists who have researched these stories from end to end, written about them. And we are, more often than not, we are covering crimes and telling tales that other journalists have done great, brave investigative works on.
Yeah.
So I might have written a good story, but there's really not a lot of bravery involved here. Not always, yeah.
Interesting. But now that you've covered how many cases? 100 episodes. More than 100. I want to ask both of you, what was a case that really made you rethink crime and justice in the South Asian context? A personal case but for me, it was the Nithari incident.
Too close to home, huh?
Too close to home, quite literally, like just right here. And Again, my whole issue was that with this whole case was that there was no remorse by the murderer. I saw your covering and I saw various documentaries on it, and no sign of remorse. Plus, also these children who were dying were from poor families with zero resources to report a crime, and that really shook me because I was like, what if there's more crime happening? Because it's kind of like the curtains are peeled back for you and you're like, okay, I thought the world around me is safe, but that's what I think, and my thoughts are not facts. So it was like I had to tell myself what I think is not true, and the world is dangerous.
I think one case that, and this is to say, because we cover so many, we really have to create a healthy distance between the stories. One story I wasn't able to create a healthy distance with was Kohistan, the Kohistan case. It is about an honor killing of 5 women in the northern Pakhtunkhwa region of Pakistan, it's in the Khyber Pass region. And I had covered and read about many honor killings. In South Asia has the highest per capita honor killings in the world. Pakistan has the highest of the 3 major South Asian countries. Now, and it's something like a woman every hour reported. So it's crazy just for honor killings. And so I'd heard of all of these. So why did this particular story from a remote village in Kohistan jar me? It's because I saw the video because of which they were killed. And I read that it's salacious, that that's what led to their ultimate torture. And I watched the video. And the video, I mean, you can share it with them, your viewers, and put in the links. But describing it would be 5 women were fully clad in traditional clothing, dancing to 2 men singing folk songs. Just for that. And it blew my mind that that could be deemed salacious purely because of the proximity of people of the opposite gender.
Yeah.
Just that video, which was so innocent. Like, they were wearing, fully covered. They were just they were doing a folk dance to folk music.
Yeah.
But because they were in one room with other men, it led to a decade-long saga of the women being tortured and murdered. And eventually, one man trying to bring them justice by going to Karachi and Lahore and fighting for their case, who was ultimately assassinated by the village people as well. So that story, I cried while researching. I couldn't create a healthy distance because it was so unbelievable.
God, I mean, it does sound straight out of like, it shouldn't just can't be so random, right? You can't just
and baseless, and I guess, but I guess this is one of the ones that is reported. I'm sure there are many more honor killings for reasons that make much lesser sense.
What about you, Aishwarya?
There's a lot. Having covered these many episodes, there's a lot. But one I've previously discussed is the death of Ruchika Girhotra. And she was this 14-year-old student with a very happy life. She had recently had her mom pass away, but she, her dad, and a younger brother were kind of picking the pieces up of their life and trying to get by and trying to be happy again. When she was inappropriately touched by the DGP of police in Chandigarh, who is this 50-year-old man who inappropriately touches this girl. She runs away while he's trying to do this and goes and tells her father, goes and tells the mom of her friend, and they file a police complaint and decide that they won't let this happen. This is like an influential man living in their locality. He was the founder of the Haryana Lawn Tennis Association, so he would have all of these like young kids playing in his backyard on his tennis grounds. So everyone was like, okay, this is unsafe. Like, these our kids go and play in his backyard all the time. We need to do something about this. That's all that happened. This girl was inappropriately touched and she decided to file a case. That was enough for this man to begin a charade of almost a decade where he went on to torture her family, torture her, put her younger brother in confinement where they beat him up, stripped him naked, made him do rounds of his colony, where they would go into her house on the name of a raid and go and ransack her whole house and then just leave, where they had men in plain clothes standing outside her home waiting to catcall her and make lewd sexual comments every time she would walk by, where she was removed from her school because the school said she didn't pay her fees on time, when her father says that they refused to accept her fees every time he went to try and pay it. So basically, they removed her unjustly. All of this happened until 14-year-old Ruchika killed herself because of how much torment her family and everyone she ever loved was having to go through, including her best friend and the parents of her best friend and every journalist who tried to cover this case, and even the lawyers that she hired. Everyone was completely tormented and tortured and mentally abused till this girl finally killed herself. And the man, the perpetrator behind all of this, got a total of 10 minutes in jail, 5 minutes in jail, with a fine of 10,000 rupees. Went on to be promoted multiple times.
Became the
Continued
head of
to
Haryana police.
yeah, while all
What?
of this was happening.
Shambhu Rathore. Yeah.
After this was while this was happening, he was
He kept
He
getting
kept
promoted,
getting promoted,
to
yeah.
the ranks of the police.
His
or
wife
he-
stood by him. His children went on to have like great jobs in high courts and went on to work in like Cox and Kings in Mumbai. So everyone had great lives.
10,000
Happy story for him.
10 minutes in jail and 1,000 rupee bail.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have like a criminal record, or what is it? Do people
Maybe
still...
he did, he was such an influential man. I don't believe that he one fine day just got up and decided to inappropriately touch a young girl at 50 years old. I 100% believe this would have happened before. Just
Yeah.
it's so hard
This is
to
the one that
speak
got
up.
reported.
Yeah, yeah. So, really sad, really, really sad.
It is, and it's. I'm still okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
When you research all these cases, do you think of therapy as a business expense?
My mom's a psychologist, so I think we'll save on that one.
Yes.
That really works out for you.
It does really, really work. Yeah. No, but there are definitely negative consequences. I remember our first ever episode was the Burari episode, and the visuals in that episode are so strong.
They're
They're wild.
too real.
Absolutely.
And we covered this before the documentary or anything.
Oh,
so we
serious?
were.
And we had seen the actual video of their bodies hanging.
Yeah.
It was online on some like really, really.
How do you bleach that out of your brain?
I couldn't. I really, really could not. And my home is on 2 floors. So every time I walked out of my room, I felt like I was about to see, multiple bodies hanging from the ceiling. It was really jarring. So it takes some time to get over for sure.
This is totally not light content. Like,
No,
it's
no.
a random
No,
Tuesday.
no,
I'll
no.
watch the.
No,
No.
I think why the Burari thing didn't stick in my mind, because I was the one who told you the website where to find it.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, this website was like the grey web. It wasn't the dark
Okay.
web, but it was a website that had anything you could like.
Don't go there. Yeah.
Horrible stuff. And a friend of mine told me about it. And as a kid, I scrolled the fuck out of this website.
What is wrong with you?
I know. I've seen stuff on that.
It's like ISIS
I think
beheading
many-
videos. It's
yes,
insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so wild, the stuff I saw on it, that I kind of got impervious to, I think my childhood was prep for.
Do you think you're
becoming true crime.
desensitized to like?
Yes. To a very large extent.
I'm not.
I feel like it's getting really hard for me to be an optimist, considering that so many people are out there to murder me. How do I fix this?
I think there is such a thing as too much true crime.
How do I undo it? Say, is there such a thing? Can I balance it out with something else? Can I watch like
Absolutely.
Aisha with Sonam Kapoor in it for like 24/7 on a loop?
Yeah, I genuinely think
I
so.
love
that's
that
a too
movie.
much of its own kind. I think.
That's not
it.
crime. It's light watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, firstly, too much true crime is subjective. Like Aryaan saying he went on to watch these really, really gory videos. I don't think I could have handled them the way he perhaps did. Or maybe he also didn't handle them well. Point being, it's like really subjective. So, for example, for me, I sleep to true crime podcasts. And I eventually found out that is in fact too much for me because I was having really, really bad nightmares.
Damn.
And my solution to that is really simple. I watch my true crime podcast or listen to it a little bit before I fall asleep, and I sleep to an episode of Friends instead.
Nice.
And it's had a life-changing impact. I rarely ever had bad dreams anymore, still do sometimes. But that's absolutely a solution.
I was so surprised, dude. I went on Netflix and they have this category on Netflix that's called Soothing Bedtime Playlist, and Ted Bundy's on it.
No.
Ted Bundy, the documentary is on it because people love falling asleep to that documentary.
That's wild.
And
I
the-
didn't-
the-
Oh, that's
narr-
actually the fact that it's in a curated.
I didn't know
list
we
is
were
crazy.
openly accepting that we
Yeah, I
like
thought
to
this was
sleep
more
to
like
true crime. I thought this
hush,
is a
hush,
secret.
Don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
People
That's
are
wild.
finding it some like there's some sort of like maybe it's your voices that people like listening to, but then your voice constantly telling me about murder is probably
Yeah.
not good for my subconscious brain. So I
not.
guess maybe what I'm trying to say is add a little bit of less murder, more like nobody died in this episode.
We have one of those coming actually. The Sweet Bobby one.
No, but that's why we have the Overthink tank pod, you know.
That's true. That's
why
why
we
you're
have
there.
you guys
Yeah.
making us laugh and giggle
this
and giving us a
podcast,
respite.
nobody
That's-
dies.
That's the,
You're the
yeah.
anti-true crime podcast.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. You know, it happens to me while watching a movie, for example, right? And I'm getting sad. I cry easily when I watch movies, okay? And whenever I'm starting to cry, I start telling myself, Aryaan, this is not real. Don't identify with it. Don't identify with it. So I think just in general in life, it's very Buddhist, but it's just don't, sometimes you got to unidentify with your experience and go, this is just happening. And I don't need to say I am the same as it. And I think if you can do that on a regular basis, you can deal with anxiety better, you can deal with tough topics better. And that's what I do personally. So
I'll also say that it's hard to do all of that because true crime is real.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like a war movie because you're not in a war.
Yeah.
And you're never likely to be, so you don't identify with it. With a woman dying in a true crime story,
Correct.
you're so
Yes.
easily
Yeah.
identifying to the victim. So that doesn't work for me. What works for me is put your life into context, put crime into context. For example, having lived in the US and going to a college in the US, the fact that there could be a school shooting at my college is ever present. Like, I'm constantly in a room saying, this guy looks kind of weird. Like, he's really likely to have a gun on him. Or where's the next exit? I'm at a Formula One race. Like, there are so many people here. Where am I supposed to run out from if there's a shooting here?
Yeah.
You have to then pull back and contextualize the problem.
That's
How
such a good
common are mass shootings like that? And if you actually go and do the research, they are very common compared to other countries. So the US has them way more than any
Yeah.
other country, but they are not common enough at all where you sitting at a college need to be
Yeah.
constantly on edge worrying about whether or not you're the next victim.
less common than lightning striking.
Less
you know.
common than lightning
And so
striking.
you're not worrying about lightning striking you every day, and that's the same, that's the, you know, contextualizing your life.
Yeah.
But your point, and I just thought about this, is because when you, even as a male reader, right, like I generally lean towards male writers because they sum up my lived experience better. Just like that's why we need more female writers to be read, so that A, as a man, I understand the female perspective, but B, more women feel represented while reading. I think true crime, I'm sure 85-90% of our victims that we have covered have been female. So that kind of, and which maps onto our listeners. 75% of our listeners are female, right? Because you identify with the stories more. And the one story I said I really was impacted by, Kohistan, I identified with Afzal, the man that fought for the 5 women. And the fact that he fought for 10 years. And then he was assassinated in broad daylight in the streets of the capital, outside the court. And I remember researching, and getting to the point where Afzal dies, because I didn't know at the beginning. I was so broken after that, and I made that episode like a tribute to Afzal and the 5 women. But I see the fact that it's feeling represented, that women do more so.
But that's so valid because now so many women, even though they are the victims of the crimes, they're also keen to listen to other stories of other women who were victims. So it's trying to obviously learn things to avoid, basically. How to decrease your exploitability. And do you guys have some like tips to decrease our exploitability? General, not for females, genderless tips to
I think
be
in-
safe.
Have your location shared with like a few close people, I would say.
That is true.
If you go on dates with people, have someone know that you're going on a date. Have them know who you're going on a date with. Like if it's the first time you're meeting someone. meet in a public place for the first time if you're going on a date, for sure.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell
tell
you
me-
my
tell me yours.
Uber tip. Okay, and this is something I do. I don't think I've ever shared this with you. So it's less now, but to be honest, if I'm ever doing Noida, Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, Uber,
Pretty
I do
standard.
it, and it is as soon as I get in the car, I fake a phone call.
Oh
and,
my God.
And on the phone call, I say two things. One is, हाँ गाड़ी का number भेज दिया है. ठीक है. And the second is, I have a 2-minute fake conversation about talking to my lawyers.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
we got that deal figured out and something about, so that they know they're fucking with the don't fuck with me.
I didn't know
There
people
are-
actually did
there
this.
There
I've
just
seen
don't
TikTok
fuck with
this
videos
me.
was a
about
meme,
this.
yeah. Oh
What?
my god.
Oh, I
I've
didn't
seen
know.
I've
No.
seen TikToks about
No,
like,
this is something I've been doing predates TikTok and
That's
Insta. It's just
amazing.
my trick that I do. And for whatever, it's the same as if you put a knife under your bed, statistically, and if you deal with nightmares, your nightmares will reduce. Purely by the feeling of safety that you have tricked yourself into. This tricks me into safety.
correct.
That I have done what I could do.
Yeah.
Then I sleep like a baby on the Uber rides.
And if for any of you who are like Aryaan, there is actually an audio recording online which mimics an exact conversation with a man like
Correct.
that.
That's
You
mad.
just need to record, download
we
that.
will link
and-
that in the description so you can
absolutely.
use it.
Free template.
It's not Indian though. I think we need
No,
an
it's
Indian
not
version
Indian.
of it.
It's not.
हाँ भाई
हाँ
हाँ भाई ठीक है घर पे हूँ वेट कर रहा
You
हूँ
should create that.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Desi Crime products.
It's actually
You
so
should.
good. I
And you
love
should
that.
be like, हाँ 3 बंदे भेज दे.
उसका देख लिया हमने
All right. Well, this has been a great discussion.
Yes.
Before I let you guys go, there's a quick rapid fire that I want you guys to participate in.
Is that supposed to be
That's the fire.
the
That's
buzzer?
Oh, rapid fire. What? There's a buzzer, I guess.
Beep.
But there's no sound
You'll
to
hurt
it.
yourself.
We'll
You
add the
poke
sound
that
in
too hard.
post.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll add the sound in
Okay,
post.
okay.
Okay. So the format of this quiz or rapid fire is that I will describe a killer, a
Okay.
criminal, with no. I'm not trying to, sympathize with the killer or the murderer. None of this. I'm just trying to play a quiz so hope people don't get triggered. Well, basically, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example.
The length she's going to not get cancelled. You're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
don't
I'm
not
a good
cancel
human
me."
being.
If just murder me straight up,
Yeah,
dude. Do not cancel me. But an example would be I'm the subject of the acclaimed podcast serial, which delves into the details of
Okay.
a murder case. Who am I?
Yeah.
Got
Got it. And
Okay.
can we say it the moment we know the answer, or do we have to wait?
So are you
we do
describing a
complete-
killer or the victim or either?
The criminal.
The criminal. Okay.
Okay, to guess the criminal full names would be nice.
Adnan. Yeah, Adnan
Adnan.
safe.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh.
And
Point
I
one.
think
But can we press the buzzer before you complete the question?
I would say press the buzzer, but make a sound. So I
No,
I
as in,
know
can we
it's-
answer the question? Okay.
Yeah,
Eh.
make a sound,
Got it.
and then whoever
Got
says
it, got
eh
it, got it,
first, I'll be
fine.
like, you go.
Got it.
Great,
fair.
great. Got it.
All right.
This is exciting. So much pressure.
Are we ready?
Oh,
Ready?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
born ready.
Number 1. Who am I? I was a prominent Indian spiritual leader known for my vast following and wealth. However, my reputation took a dark turn when I was convicted of rape and sentenced to life imprisonment. Okay, yes. Who am I?
I know what he looks like.
Immediately.
Huh? It is
I don't know.
the Baba with 3 names. He has Christian name, Muslim name, Hindu name. That guy?
Okay, I'll come back to you. Do you have an answer
I
with
don't
this?
have
That's
an
better
answer.
than
There are
this.
too many Babas who.
However, my reputation took a dark turn when I was convicted of rape and sentenced to life imprisonment. Who am I?
know.
The
Ram Rahim. What is
That's not fair. Yeah, Ram Rahim.
That's one of the
Yeah, so I mean,
spiritual
that's where-
leaders.
one of the right? Yeah, there are like a
Ram
few.
Rahim is what I meant. The Muslim
Actually,
and
the right
Christian
answer
name.
is Asaram Bapu.
Asaram
Damn
Bapu. Yeah, right.
Damn
Dang
it.
it.
Okay.
The
Well,
name
you
didn't
can't
come.
spell Asaram Bapu without the word ass. So, moving on.
Okay. I thought you were going to
If
go for the
anything's
other
gonna get-
one and you're going to definitely get cancelled.
What do you mean? He's convicted of rape and
Yeah,
No, I thought the
fair.
Life
other half of the name.
imprisonment.
Never
Fair,
mind.
fair.
Continue.
never touching that. Okay, guys, ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay, you guys still at 0. I'm an unidentified entity who terrorized the streets of Delhi in the late 1990s. I was rumored to be a man, a ghost, or even an alien responsible for series of attacks on unsuspecting victims.
Eh? The monkey. The black monk. Black
That is
monkey.
correct.
Yes!
One
Hey,
man.
Galat baat hai. This
Monkey
is
man.
So
Monkey
bad.
man. Black monkey.
I'm fine.
Just
One
for
all.
context, Aishwarya gave the right answer to a question that we can put the video of it. Unfortunately, the audio never came through. So
So it should be 1 all.
it should be 1 all technically, but since it's not on tape, and if it's not on tape, you know how evidence works.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
As a true crime podcaster, you need to respect the veracity of evidence. And so,
You watched it happen.
watched what?
Okay, this is unfair. I'll win. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, this one's for you, okay? You can do this.
1-0.
I'm an Indian man who was convicted of murdering my wife by burning her alive in a tandoor oven.
Eh,
I don't know his name. It's Aryaan's episode.
Tandoor oven.
I know.
You know his name? Think about it.
Sanjay.
That's my dad's name.
I mean, I'm sure there are many people there. That's Sanjay. That's there
Guys.
also. That is.
You covered this case.
I've covered 110.
Do you know the wife's name who's murdered? Somebody's name?
What was the tandoor murder? I know the Sushil.
That is correct.
It takes a moment.
Who's
to,
Sushil?
Sushil
the
Sharma.
mo- Sushil Sharma. is the
Sushil
murderer.
Sharma.
It takes some money to.
So
jo-
ये संजय
moment
बोल
to-
के he's just waiting for
तो
it
आ
to
गया
come to
सुशील आ
him.
गया it wasn't coming
Oh
to you
my
anyway.
God.
I'll give you half mark because you're
हाँ,
a
ठीक
man.
है,
That's
ठीक
it. Half mark deducted for being a
Love it.
man.
Love to see it. Perfect.
Okay, this one's coming up. I'm an Indian doctor who gained infamy for my involvement in a kidney transplant racket.
बहुत हैं यार.
Not interested in kidneys. My illegal organ trade scandal shocked the nation and led to widespread investigations into organ trafficking. Who am I?
Haven't covered this case. No, मतलब I. Yeah.
Don't know the name.
Yeah.
Not interested in kidneys.
No, not a big organ trafficking guy. What's his name?
Dr. Amit Kumar.
Yeah, okay.
I'm wondering
Sounds so
if you are
normal.
a criminal, do we still call you a doctor?
Yeah,
No, I think Shamari Lianaga's husband was a doctor. I think we refrain from that.
No, you okay? Yeah, you don't call him doctor. Ah, I see what you're doing. Is he doctor?
Yeah,
Amit? Mhm.
This is like respect. I mean, sorry.
Amit. Amit.
Well, in a sad turn of events, the man among us has won.
Yes. Like always.
But
yes.
you shouldn't have. Oh my god.
This was a
Well, that's what
patriarchal
happens.
quiz, guys, and I came on top.
This audio system is what is patriarchal. I will turn off my flame.
Oh my
But the
god.
deal we had before this quiz was that whoever wins gets a ride back home,
Yeah.
safely dropped into their house, and whoever loses gets a pepper spray.
Unless you're a woman, then you get a safe drive.
Unless you're a woman, Aishwarya
Either
is a
way.
woman, we will drop you safely. Nobody gets pepper spray. We both drop you back home.
Woo!
This has been amazing.
It's so much fun.
much
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you so much, Aryaan, and thank you so much, Aishwarya.
Thank you.
Just as we wrap up, do you want to give this person who questioned us about getting too anxious about true crime, what would you suggest them to watch to just ease off their anxiety? And how to just...
ये सुरभि ने क्वेश्चन खुद लिखा है by the way.
हाँ,
दूसरे
this
अपने
is
लिसनर
me.
को ब्लेम कर रही है,
This
but
is
she
me.
wants to know that
This
this is her.
You better therapize me.
What advice?
Some Kodiko. We were watching Kodiko in the middle of our recording yesterday. So some Kodiko reacts to the buttons. Actually, there's this video called The Worst Moments of Button History by Kodiko. Go watch that if you're scared and anxious.
And I would say, on top of that, something both of us believe is the world is a generally great place and human beings are generally very good. And if you don't worry about thunderbolts striking you all the time, then you don't need to worry about things that are statistically more insignificant than thunderbolts. I know it's difficult. I know we all worry about it. But just sometimes reminding yourself of that helps me at least. And so it might be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you haven't been electrocuted yet, maybe you
probably
won't
won't die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people go their whole lifetimes without getting electrocuted, right?
And if you're worried about being struck by lightning,
Yeah.
then I think you have bigger problems. Then,
Yeah. Then be less paranoid.
Yeah, then I'd be, a little afraid of meeting you. So, yeah.
Oh, this has been great. Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
If you love my podcast, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be nice and subscribe to the Desi Crime podcast. I mean, you already do because you're all just dirty little freaks who want the bloody details of every murder.
Yes.
But that's okay. Aryaan and Aishwarya bring one episode each week,
Yes.
right? So get your ears.
Yes, get your true crime
Your
fix
true
with
crime.
our soothing voices.
Amazing. Thank you
Awesome.
so much, guys. This has been the Overthink Tank. I will see you soon. Bye.